Hello, guitar slingers from the Joshua Center guitar class. Last Wednesday was amazing. Dale showed up, a new student, total beginner, brought his new guitar, and he interacted, which was amazing for a beginner, and applause to him. Dorothy brought her guitar this time, and she interacted and she prepared. And then Steve-O brought his guitar, and boy, he was really playing along. So it was really wonderful, and we had a great time. One of the things that we learned was that there are two chord forms, and every other chord, whether it's up and down the neck or in the open position, is a derivative of those two forms, which are E and G. There is nothing else. So instead of memorizing, which is a horrible way to live, you just understand, and from there, you know your way. And I can give 1,000 analogies for that. Like if you're taking directions, you know, you're gonna memorize, oh, make a left at such and such and go, no. But when you know the way home, sometimes you're driving home, you forget that you're even driving, you just end up home. Why? Because you know it, you feel it, you got the fundamentals of it, you know it like the back of your hand. So if you know E and G and everything about it, then you know every chord on the guitar, including any derivative or change or adding notes on top or whatever. You have a foundation from which to build, and you can make chords up and positions up as you go along and just see them clearly without all this horrible memorization, which is just a terrible way to live, because we want to play music just like we talk. We don't want to talk phonetically like, oh, let me remember those sounds. Où est la bibliothèque? What does that mean? Oh yes, was that go to the bathroom or the library? So we don't want to live that way, and you're not going to have to live that way. You're going to be able to express yourself musically from a ground roots level where you know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it, just like you're speaking and you know why you're saying those words, and you don't have to stop and, you know, wonder if you memorize the sound of the word properly, or if you're, you know, speaking another language, you have to keep looking at your Berlitz book. No way for us. We are going to play music as an expression and be free to do it. Now, one of the ways that we do that is that we understand that the idea in music is to know the notes. Now, when people hear know the notes, they go, which notes? As if they're going to read some music that somebody wrote, like a human player piano. But that's not really how music works, because, for example, a student mentioned, oh, well, there's 88 keys, 88 notes, or choices of notes on the piano keyboard. Well, no. Those notes are repeated in higher and lower registers, just like the days in the week are repeated in the future and the past. Or since Western music is based on a 12-note system, just like 12 months in the year, 12 hours and half a day, you have the same structure looking into the future or into the past. So when you say know the notes, I mean like you know the months of the year. You don't have to change the names and the values or the meaning of the months in the year every time you go to a new year, or if you look into a past year. So just like on the piano, if you start on middle C and go up the 12 notes to the next C, that's it. Those are the notes. Now, going playing the same notes lower to the left, those notes are the same notes, but in the analogy, that's the past. That's like the calendar in the past. And then the notes in the future, higher up to the right, those are the same notes, but to the right. So all of a sudden now we're narrowing it down. There's 12 notes. And then we learn something very amazing, that there are 60 discernible tones within those 12 notes. Or I should say pitches. Isn't that interesting? The human can perceive 60 tones, in other words, notes in between the notes. So in between each month or each note of the 12 notes, there's 5 little notes in there. And so playing in between the notes is one of the best ways to really bring out the emotions and really express yourself. So this is very heavy. Now, you don't have to really go crazy with all the notes in between the notes, because just like acupressure points or acupuncture, you go to a specific place where you're going to go in between the notes. And that main specific place, well, 2 of them, is from the flat 3, which we're getting to know, which is the sad note, minor, and 3, which is the happy note, major. So minor third, sad, major third, happy. But when you go from minor and then bend up a little bit to the happy, like ba-da, like that. See, I went too happy there. On the guitar, I could show it to you a lot better. But that's one of the main places where you go in between the notes, and you'll learn that so that when you play, you're not just like, you know, I don't know if they still have those things where you paint by numbers. And it does come out looking like a horse or a duck or whatever, but it's not right. When I did it anyway, it didn't, when I was a kid, it didn't look right because the colors weren't like blended together. You could see the, you know, you could see the outlines where the spaces and the corresponding colors to the numbers went. So we don't want to paint by numbers. We want to do this by feel, and that's what it's all about. Music is about feeling and emotions, and there's something very almost spiritual about the experience, the musical experience, and that's what we want to trigger. For somebody who's a music enthusiast and really gets into all this, you can sit in a train and just close your eyes and just immerse yourself into the sounds of the wheels and the gears and the little shriek sounds as the brakes are coming in. The clickety-clack rhythm section holding down the beat. The woo-woo horns over the top and going around the mountain. And all of a sudden you feel like you're inside a big, wonderful symphony. And that's what music is. Music actually is the experience of music. It is the special feeling that you get when you connect and something happens in your mind where you just kind of let go of the, you know, the language. We're always talking words. That's a technology, you know, the words. So we let go of that, and all of a sudden we immerse ourselves in the sound. That's the musical experience. Now that's not, you know, something that you could go out and probably perform, although contemporary classical does a lot of that. They do a lot of crazy sounds, and you're supposed to have the musical experience by relaxing into it. So this is a very important point, because we need to understand again that from the flat 3 bending up almost to the 3, or a lot of times at the end of a phrase will bend up a little bit, like yeah, oh yeah, and it puts a little accent, it puts a little something in it, rather than just, yes, I played the 3, I am happy, look at me, smile. We don't want that. We want the nuance, you see. And then the other place where you bend in between the notes that's very important is from the 4 up to the flat 5. The flat 5, oh boy. That's the note, that's the trouble note that starts all the trouble and brings all that kind of sexy danger, and kind of throws things off and makes things interesting. So that flat 5 and bending in and around it, not just hitting directly on the note, but knowing that you're going to go a little bit below. And then the third tone to get to know, that's one of the most important, is the flat 7. Ba da da na. You see, that's the flat 7. And that flat 7 brings in the tritone sound that we've talked so much about, the devil's interval. And that's the basic structure that backs you up on the blues, allowing you to go back and forth from happy to sad, back and forth with no problem. So learning the notes means, first of all, the 12 notes, yes, they're there. And then there is, out of that, in Western music, we make a scale of 7 of those notes to make it easier. So we have the 12 months in the year, we have the 12 Western notes that we use, and then we have the 7 days in the week, and we have the 7 notes. Usually we start with the major scale as the foundational scale. To make it easier, we just number the notes, so we don't even have to memorize a name for each note, like Thursday, Friday. We just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Or then if we go to the higher note, we'll say 8. But it's 1 again, but again in a different frequency. So it's 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so what I've done is I've added here in the email, in order to learn the notes on the fretboard, we're starting with the major scale on the low E string. And that's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And you notice, I don't know whether I'm actually starting on a G, and it doesn't matter, you see, because the structure is the same. I'm sure you're all gradually getting this, but this is a very, very, very important thing, because people feel overwhelmed with the notes. Oh, there's so many notes, and what key are you in? And they think the notes on the staff and all these things about reading. On guitar, you just move along from one fret to the next, just like the years move along from one year to the next, the weeks move along one week to the next, without changing the pattern. On other instruments, less fortunate instruments, they have to change everything. For example, if you're going from C, which turns out to be no sharps or flats, which is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then you go from C, this is C, middle C, to C sharp, and you start the days of the week there, or then the 7 main tones of music, Western music. Now it's C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, which is an F, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, which is actually C, and C sharp. So it's very confusing, and you gotta just strain your brain, and we don't need it. Why? Because you're a guitar slinger. You see, you're a musician magician. You trigger people's chakras and emotions like a really good actor. And you know how to do that because you know those acupressure points. You know how to push people's buttons. The thing is that, you know, I am a magician of emotions, just like a really, really good actor. Now, I did study acting at the Lee Strasberg Institute, and I performed at the Actors Studio. So I know a little bit of what I'm talking about, and how, you know, bringing out that magic in music is not about memorizing notes or playing the songs that are popular. It's about expressing your feelings and yourself through the vehicle of music, which is not unlimited. Okay, I've already given you now the main acupressure points. Flat 3 to 3, bending the 4 up to the flat 5, throwing in the flat 7 to start trouble with the blues scale. I just want to encourage you that you too are guitar slingers, and you too now are actually in the line of succession. Not to make it too big of a deal, but I was mentored by Leonard Bernstein, and he's the one that really brought out the primal understanding of music. And my father and mother met in Juilliard, and they taught music in the living room from the time I was a baby, and I've been with this stuff, going from classical and then going all the way through and transferring that mentality, which is not for creating, it's for being a musical slave. Unless you reach the highest echelon, then you know so much that it sort of transcends. But I really am one of the well, there's not many of us, let's put it that way. And I've actually never heard anyone put it so simply in a way that my beginner class here, because it's mainly beginners, can actually pick up and learn from the real baseline, fundamental process in an organic, integrated way, and express themselves musically. And believe me, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but the first time you're sitting there in the living room, or after a while when you've learned a few progressions and a few songs, maybe playing with a friend or sitting in, or maybe, you know, some friends and relatives are just there, and all of a sudden you go, they will feel it, and they will say, wow, that was tasteful. I felt it. And you will really enjoy that, not just hearing that, but expressing it. So stick with me on this. It's not endless. You already know the 3 main acupressure points of music. There's also, we learned the 5th, 1, 5, which is the power chord. It's the basis, just like in the famous classical tune, ba, ba, ba. That's 1, 5, 1. And then sad, happy, you see? And so we're already learning the ear training of the music. Well, this video went on a little bit longer than I expected, but I hope you enjoy it. I'm also adding a total beginner song, Something, by George Harrison, which was praised by many, many greats like Frank Sinatra, but you can play it immediately as a beginner. So for Dale and for the other beginners, this is the one to start on. And so again, I really appreciate you all. You're being very, very gracious and wonderful to me. And stick with me, because you will be having more and more of that musical experience. I promise. Okay, guitar slingers, we'll see you next Wednesday, April 15th at the fabulous Joshua Center.